And oh my God, the rabbit hole I fell into. This name kept popping up in YouTube suggestions. Brandon Sanderson. I'm like, who is this guy? Like he's in book reviews. I start seeing things like lectures, and I'm like, this guy does lectures? He's a professor? Why is he so famous? He's so prolific. YouTube would not stop suggesting this guy's stuff to me. And some of the booktubers I started following, they were reviewing some of his books, or his books were on their top 10 lists for the year. And I'm like, this guy's name keeps popping up. How do I not know this guy's name? I've got a lot of books. Till about 2010-ish is when I started derailing because I had to focus on writing. And I never heard his name. And I was like, when I looked into it, I was like, oh, he's been prolific in the last 15 years. like extremely prolific. And like one of his like main things is like he's not only a massive world builder, but he's such a consistent writer that it's like, for me, is like even learning about this guy, I'm like, I don't think I remember any writer like this. Maybe Stephen King back in the 80s 90s era of Stephen King. Is like, it's like every 3 months there might have been a book on the shelf. So I'm like, okay, well, he's teaching about narrative composition and storytelling and crafting worlds and plots. I'm like, I'm kind of interested in the storytelling methodologies as well, and so I'm digging into him as a professor. That was hours in of lectures at this point. Just like watching his stuff going, all right, I mean, I guess I have to kind of see why his books are so famous. I gotta dig into this some more. And I'm not sure where I stumbled on this thing, but he basically gave his whole outline for a novel called Skyward. In that outline, I was reading the premise of it, so how he sets up the setting and the characters, and then I was getting into the plot breakdown. I was like, oh, I don't want to spoil it. Like, I mean, I might as well read it. I mean, at the surface, it feels like a very simple storytelling style. And what I mean by that is that the prose just clips along. Like, I've never really read anything where the prose felt like TikTok to me. That's a terrible way to say it because I don't like TikTok. I enjoy fluffy prose, world building in the sense of like the language, the words themselves take me on a journey, and then my brain just constructs things in the pacing that I want to construct them. That being said, there was almost like a breath of fresh air for how fast this thing was just like moving. There was a different feeling. I can't say whether I liked it or I hated it. I'm just saying I'm very new to it. It just felt like a different pace to me that I wasn't used to. But enjoyable character, very simple and understandable composition of the plot arc. And I would say that even while I was reading that, I was like, maybe the reason why he's so prolific is because this language is very easily translatable. That sounds like a crazy kind of maybe perspective to give on this. But imagine like you being a translator, you want to translate this into, let's say, 20 languages. A simple English is going to translate way easier than complex Tolkien fluff text, right? Or George R.R. Martin's like Game of Thrones, etc. Not to say it can't be done, it's just the more dense the language is, stuff is lost in translation because not all language translates equally, like the same. Put this in quote. I have to imagine that there's just some operational benefit of being a writer like him. I'm curious to see what his other stuff is about. I mean, there was one Kazimir or Kashmir. They're gonna destroy me. Listen, I'm literally a noob. I have no idea. I'm just saying I saw a lot of books. I got extremely intimidated. I have to remember it. Cosmere. But I wouldn't know where to start. Felt extremely intimidated. I think on one review they said that the book was like 1,000 pages, which is that's not the problem for me. It's that there's multiple books that could be 1,000 pages, and I have a goal this year. I mean, I can read books that are 350 pages average in my collection, and I've got, I don't know, 100 plus of these that I haven't read, or I can read a 1,000 page book. That being said, they're so fast to read, man. His pace is something surreal. I've never experienced it before in my life. Like maybe 1,000 pages reads like 350 pages in his, I don't know. I'm curious.